they, peeps? Grab a chair, come sit down. We want to know what your guys... Well, I have to ask Abby. Abby, what's your best pickup line?
Are you Wi-Fi because I'm feeling a connection?
Are you Wi-Fi because I'm feeling a connection? Woo! Wow, what was your other one? How much does a polar bear weigh?
Enough to break the ice.
Enough to break the ice. What's the one where it says you fell from heaven?
Did it hurt when you fell?
Oh, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? I've been told that once or twice.
Yeah, right.
What's up?
Hello.
All right.
I'm Nicholas.
And I'm Braden, if you didn't know.
We think.
We're playing a game.
Yes,
as
we are.
You can see. But we need all of you guys to get out your phones.
Yes, please.
Even you.
We're gonna play a game that I'm just now calling Emoji
Texting
game. You're going to text your answers to this phone number. We're gonna put up a series of emojis and you're gonna have to find them and text them to this number as fast as you can.
However, in order to receive points, they must be A, in the correct order, and
True.
B, every single text that you send with emojis must have your name before it.
Text your
3,
number
2,
and the
1,
emojis.
go!
Can you get this space-themed one? Text the emojis, Megan.
Megan,
as
you were there
fast
when
as
we
you
went
can.
over the game.
Ooh, we might have a winner. Wait, let's check. Yes, we have a winner. William has won this round.
Mr. William
Whenever you're ready, Matt.
Listos. 3, 2, 1, go!
This one is
Ooh.
COVID themed.
Plus a pig.
Plus a pig for some reason.
All right, we're waiting. Megan's.
Oh, we got another one from William. William.
We are going to start another round. 3, 2,
Okay.
1.
Okay. Whoa, that was fast. You better get this one.
You're
This
texting.
one is actually underwater themed.
Yeah.
And there's both a mermaid and a merman. I will be checking
I
both
also
of
will
those.
note, if you are texting me, you have the wrong number.
This is true.
Megan.
It is not Braden.
You.
Jack Concert
Jack
with the win
Concert has
this time.
Taking the dub on this round.
Good
Raise
one,
your hand
good
if you
one.
haven't won.
Thank you all for playing. It was great. My name's Braden.
My
He's
name's
Nicholas.
Nicholas. Thank you
And,
for watching iCarly.
And Alan, you were so close. Next up, we got announcements.
Sunday morning, really exciting. We're kicking off our Sunday mornings. We're going to be meeting Matt in the loft right here in the space up here for high school, the high school space. Yeah, going to be a great time. We're going to have pancakes, we're going to have coffee, and a time to dive deeper in your faith. So, 9 a.m. 9 a.m. on Sunday.
Tonight is going to be about misconceptions. I don't know if any of you guys saw our Instagram story, but it was fun getting to see some of your, what you guys put in for, like, what are some common misconceptions about Jesus? So thank you for that if you put your answer in. A common misconception is that Fairview is better than Boulder, right? And the truth is Monarch is the best. Go! The true answer. No, that last one was actually, the other words were true, that was a joke. But here's the thing, why misconceptions in a series when we're talking about, what we're connected to ultimately determines our direction and purpose in life? Like, why are we talking about misconceptions? I don't know why. And here's the thing, the way that we understand and think about life plays an important role. Like, I think we can all agree on that. And oftentimes, our misconceptions, or I'll also use the word assumptions, they become reality, right? Like, maybe some of you have sat there and you've been like, I've been eating carrots every week to make sure my eyesight stays good, right? Like, our misconceptions and assumptions about things can become reality, okay? Like, here's some other misconceptions that can feel like a reality at times. Like, I met some people like this when I was an athlete. They're like, all athletes are dumb. You surprised me that you weren't as dumb as you look, right? Or all band kids are nerds. Or if you're a boomer, then you're lame. If you're a Republican or you're a Democrat, you're this or you're that. Like, there might be some things that you've learned that you're like, I have a reason why I would say this, like a pretty good reason. But that assumption that you might have about this person or that thing, it might not totally be truth, okay? But we treat it like it is. So here's the thing, like about myself, is people always are like, did you play basketball? Like just because I'm tall, they ask that. And it doesn't help my case that I did, but I had a lot of friends who, one played volleyball, one ended up just being an IT person and had no athletic bone in his body. My brother's taller than me and he was a pitcher. He didn't play basketball in college, right? Like everyone just assumes because we're tall we play basketball, right? One of my common misconceptions is that like I'm actually not tall. Everyone else around me is just small and they're living in my world, right? Like you guys get it. But here's the thing. When you look at the assumptions and misconceptions, I hope that you guys are seeing that it can be a bad thing, right? Like if you just assume everyone who is in this thing is bad or dumb or popular, that doesn't really work well, right? So that's what I'm hoping we can understand, is that misconceptions and assumptions about things can actually lead us down a rough path. And so here's the thing. I'm going to use one more example to just really make sure we're all tracking. Like think about dating. We talked about dating last week, but let me just play out a scenario. So let's say you're dating someone and you see them talking to this girl or that guy, right? And then you see them laughing as they talk to this person and they're having a really good time and you're just kind of watching from afar. And then you find out that that person invited your boyfriend or girlfriend to a movie with their friends, right? That's the person you're dating. So what's going on in your head, right? You might be thinking like they're trying to steal my man or my girl, whatever it is. Here's the thing, and when all in reality, you didn't know this, but that person who is talking to your significant other that you're dating is actually their cousin that you just had never met before, right? And so it's actually like a friend hangout. It's not a dating thing. So if you're sitting there and be like, that's weird, why would they date their cousin? No, that's their cousin just wanting to be friends with them, inviting them to a movie, but you were sitting there being like, they're stealing my person, right? Like we had an assumption about what that person was doing. And maybe that happens with your friends. You have a great friend and it feels like someone else is stealing them from you. Chances are you might have an assumption that they're trying to steal them when honestly they just might really like hanging out with that person, right? So that's kind of just some more like specific things to maybe you. Here's the thing, misconceptions are just assumptions we've turned into truth. I'll say that one more time. Misconceptions are just assumptions that we've turned into truth, right? And so I'll get back to kind of this topic in a little bit, but tonight I wanted to pull up this scripture. And we just see Jesus, he's calling some of his disciples to say, hey, come follow me. And he just calls Philip. And so he's really pumped. He's like, Jesus, I just met the person we've been waiting for hundreds of years. Like I just met him and he asked me to come follow him, right? And so here's where this verse picks up. I'll read it up and it'll be up on the screen here. Nathaniel is who he's talking to. So it's like a friend of his. So here's the one last piece I'll mention is Philip just said, I met Jesus, the one we've been waiting for forever, asked me to follow him, and he's from Nazareth. Like he's known as Jesus from Nazareth. So this is what Nathaniel said. Nazareth, you've got to be kidding. But Philip said, come see for yourself. When Jesus saw him coming, he said, there is a real Israelite, not a false bone in his body. Nathanael said, where did you get that idea? You don't know me. And Jesus answered, one day, long before Philip called you here, I saw you under the fig tree. Apparently there was a time that Nathanael was under there. And Nathanael exclaimed, Rabbi, which is teacher, you are the Son of God, the King of Israel. And Jesus said, you've become a believer simply because I say I saw you one day sitting under the fig tree. You haven't seen anything yet. Before this is over, you're going to see heaven open and God's angels descending to the Son of Man and ascending again, which, if you know anything about Jesus, he's kind of foreshadowing what's going to happen in the future. But what I really want to kind of talk about in this verse is the misconception. So what we do see is Nathanael realizing, hey, no one else saw me under this fig tree. I was by myself, and Jesus saw that and then says, hey, I saw you there. Like that's just, no one can know that except the person that we've been waiting for hundreds of years, right? But the misconception here that we see is this. There's another version where it says, Nathanael says, nothing good can come from Nazareth. That's another version that nothing good can come from Nazareth, which was where Jesus was born and came from. But this moment here changed his life, right? And here's the thing, it almost didn't happen because of a misconception that he had about who, or about what happened at Nazareth, right? Nothing good could come there. Nothing was worth my time if it came from Nazareth. I'm not trading with them. I'm not meeting with people from there. Nothing good can come from there. And he almost missed being with one of the greatest people in history, right? Because of a misconception he had about a place. And so for you, when we look at this idea of misconception and how Nathaniel almost missed literally the greatest opportunity he potentially had in his lifetime because of something he just thought, which was a misconception or an assumption. What about you? Like, what things could you be missing because of your misconception about something or someone? You just say it again. What things could you be missing because of your assumptions or misconceptions about someone or something? Here's the thing. Your misconceptions could be your biggest missed opportunities. All right? You can read it up there, but I think that's really helpful to know. And you might have to spend some time figuring out what are my misconceptions or assumptions about things, but they really could be your biggest missed opportunities, because oftentimes we might dismiss something before we ever give it a chance. And sometimes you might see that in this setting. You go on a mission trip and you get assigned to this family group and you're like, I can't believe I got stuck with that person. And then you give them a chance for 4 or 5 days and you're like, I was wrong, right? You know, sometimes it might be trying out for something at school or doing a trip with your family. Like, sometimes it might not work out great, and that's okay. Like, you at least gave it a try. But sometimes going into things, you dismiss it before it ever even happens, right? So then the question is how do we address our misconceptions so we can try to jump ahead of missing really great opportunities that might come our way in life, right? And here's just a couple things that often help us move away from having misconceptions or assumptions about people. And it's you got to surround yourself with people not like you. Find diversity, people that believe different things, people that had a different lifestyle than you, people who might have different interests than you. Like, we've talked about this in community. In order to have a successful community, it's not finding one where everyone is alike. And so if you want to have a people around you that are going to potentially be like, hey, I actually think you should give this a shot because your assumption about it right now actually isn't going to work out. Like, it's going to be good for you, right? So you surround yourself with people not like you. And then the other thing is you look at the other side of your misconception. You look at the other side of what you believe as truth, right? Oftentimes we just want to be around the people who just support us and say what we believe in and what we do is the best thing ever. If my coach was just like, told me only good things that I did when I played, the parts of my game that needed developed would never get developed because he never was there to say, hey, I think that this is actually going to be helpful for you. Like, you think you're really great at this side of the game? I need to show you this whole other area of your game that you need to improve on, right? So you got to find some people around you and also look at what the other side of your misconception or assumptions are. And then the last thing is you got to humbly evaluate the options, right? There's going to come a moment where you still have to figure out what are you going to move ahead with, right? But, excuse me. But you got to figure out how to do that in a humble setting versus just like, you disagree with me, you're discredited, I don't want anything to do with you, right? You got to figure out how to be humble in the process. And so that's exactly what Nathaniel had to do in order to find himself, following Jesus, because he originally said, that guy's not worth my time. And I had to say, I was wrong in that setting, right? And so for us, here's our assumptions and misconceptions aren't doing anyone or ourselves a favor. And for the people that I see sitting here at this place, I can say, oftentimes if we look at what people who follow Jesus, how they live out their lives and how they treat people, generally speaking, people who follow Jesus don't always have a great rapport when it comes to, culture at large. When they think of Christians, there's usually all these taglines that come with it. Like, hey, they might be really caring people at times, but they're also this, and this that aren't actually really positive, right? So if that's what other people's misconception is about people who follow Jesus, then it makes sense. Why would they want to follow that Jesus? The one that they see who is like standing on the corner saying everyone's going to hell if you don't follow Jesus. Or the one who's like, I said one mean thing to them and they've just been so mean to me ever since. But yet they talk about loving people and being nice. Like, when you look at some of the things about how Jesus calls us to live, and then when we do something opposite, and how we handle when we mess up, right? Like, it makes sense why when we have misconceptions about Jesus, that the last 2 weeks of talking about, hey, I want you to look at what gives you motivation, what gives you direction in life. then it makes sense like that all that's a waste of time if we're not willing to look at the misconceptions that we might have about who Jesus is and about what our life is in direction and purpose. So that's kind of why we're talking about misconceptions, is because if we just have assumptions about different lifestyles or different things we hear or ways that Jesus is inviting us to go live, we'll miss it, right? Like it doesn't even, we've already assumed it's not even worth me spending time thinking about, right? So that's why we're talking about misconceptions as the last thing for this. So I don't really think I have much more to say with that, except you yourself, if you follow Jesus, there might be places in your life that you've assumed that he gives you bad things that happen in your life when you do bad things, like he's punishing you. You might have other assumptions that he wants the worst for you when you aren't following him, or that there's just a lot of things that if you've said yes to following Jesus, you can assume things about him that aren't true. And so this isn't just for people who are trying to figure out whether or not following Jesus is for them. This is for all of us. Like looking at your assumptions that you carry in life, your misconceptions, which we'll talk about in our group time here. But the last thing I think I just want to remind us of is one of those quotes that I had said earlier. Let me just see if I can find it. But yeah, that misconceptions are just assumptions we've turned into truth. All right? So just again, it's asking you to kind of challenge the status quo of things you've thought to be normal in your life. All right? So if it's, even if it's like, hey, Wednesday nights are the place I want to be, just ask yourself, like, is that true? And if you're like, I don't know if it is, that's an okay thing to ask, right? Like, if we stop questioning things, then we just find ourselves in a content space, right? So I'm not just saying just the things that I think is great, like, yes, I think you should be here. But you might be able to find out, hey, Matt, this is what I would want more of on a Wednesday night or a Sunday morning or out of a community, right? When you start asking yourselves, what do I need? Is that worth it, right? Because what you might find is, I've heard a couple people like, where is everyone? Well, if you guys are the group that's like, hey, we've decided that this place is for us and the rest of the people are trying to figure it out, you guys get to be a part of the solution and sending a text, inviting a friend that day you saw them, right? Like, it's something that we all can get behind.